Hello everyone, welcome to today's Bible at the Beach video where we are continuing to study through the book of Romans together, picking up where we left off last time in Romans chapter 9, where, as a quick reminder, the Apostle Paul is talking about how, okay, yes, absolutely, God clearly did choose the Jewish people as his people in the Old Testament. However, God's promises in that were only given to the people who would receive them, right? They weren't given to everyone just because they were born Jewish in ethnicity. As we said last time, Paul even apparently views it as perverting the Bible to think that, I'm in with God just because I'm Jewish. That's not how this works. God's promise has always been given only to people who will receive it, right? And his mercy has always been expressed both positively and negatively to those he chooses to express it to. Which, yes, as Paul says in verse 19 there, you might then say, well then, why does God blame people for not responding? Haven't they simply done what he makes them do? Paul answers, no, don't say that. Who are you, a mere human, to argue with God? Should the thing that was created say to the one who created it, why have you made me like this? When a potter makes a jar out of clay, doesn't he have a right to use the same lump of clay to make one jar for decoration and another to throw garbage into? Basically, it's an inappropriate question to ask God. Verse 22. In the same way, even though God has the right to show his anger and his power, he is very patient with those on whom his anger falls, who are destined for destruction. He does this to make the riches of his glory shine even brighter on those to whom he shows mercy, who are prepared in advance for glory. You read those last two verses again, because those are huge here. He says, in the same way, even though God has the right to show his anger and his power, he is very patient with those on whom his anger falls, who are destined for destruction. He does this to make the riches of his glory shine even brighter on those to whom he shows mercy, who are prepared in advance for glory. What's Paul saying there? Well, you know how sometimes you look around the world and you wonder why on earth God allows some people to do such evil things that they do? Right? Like, why doesn't God just zap them as soon as they sin, or even stop them before they sin? And we may even end up kind of blaming God for the evil that happens in the world. But Paul is basically saying, time out. Understand, when God does not zap people for things they do that are evil, it's because he's showing his patience. He's showing his mercy in the hope that evil people will repent and respond positively to his mercy. Because God's patience is a major factor in people turning to him, right? I mean, in our own stories, I'm sure. So understand, anytime you look at the world and you wonder why there's so much evil and brokenness, realize the evil and brokenness, that's a result of our doing as humans. That's all and only because of humans misusing the free will that God gave us. But anytime you see mercy and grace shown to a person, that's a result of God's doing. That's all and only because of him. And when all is said and done, we can trust our all-knowing God's plans with people. And Paul goes on in verse 24, we are among those whom he selected, both from the Jews and from the Gentiles. Concerning the Gentiles, God says in the prophecy of Hosea, those who were not my people, I will now call my people, and I will love those whom I did not love before. And then, at the place where they were told, you are not my people, they will be called children of the living God. And concerning Israel, Isaiah the prophet cried out, though the people of Israel are as numerous as the sand on the seashore, where I'm standing, right? Only a remnant will be saved. For the Lord will carry out his sentence upon the earth quickly and with finality. And Isaiah said the same thing in another place. If the Lord of heaven's armies had not spared a few of our children, we would have been wiped out like Sodom, destroyed like Gomorrah. What does all this mean? Even though the Gentiles were not trying to follow God's standards, they were made right with God, and it was by faith that this took place. But the people of Israel, who tried so hard to get right with God by keeping the law, never succeeded. Why not? Because they were trying to get right with God by keeping the law, instead of by trusting in him. They stumbled over the great rock in their path. God warned them of this in the scriptures when he said, I am placing a stone in Jerusalem that makes people stumble, a rock that makes them fall. But anyone who trusts in him will never be disgraced. And that's Jesus, of course. Okay, Paul, you may say. So then, how do the Old Testament law and Jesus fit together when it comes to how we live as Christians, right? You ever wondered that? We'll plan to pick it up there next time, God willing.